The biography of this person is obscure and complicated, making hints at his mysterious noble origin. He called himself either Count de Ferruci or Chevalier de Seingalt. This adventurer introduced himself as a traveler, a priest, a diplomat, a military officer, a scientist, and in his memoirs, he openly told the things other people preferred to conceal. Our contemporaries imagine Casanova as a person combining the features of a real man and a generalized character of an amorous man. Very little is known about the life of Giacomo Giovanni Casanova. He was born in Venice in 1725. It seemed that the birth itself left an imprint on his whole life. It is supposed that Giacomo was the fruit of the adultery of a beautiful aristocrat and a theater owner. The future real life of Giacomo Casanova is overshadowed by myths quite often created by himself. The first myth, Casanova, a great seducer. Describing his love affairs during the 40 years of his life, Casanova uses the names of 116 women. Is it too many for a bachelor traveling all over Europe? His meticulous biographers calculated that, on the average, he had 3 beloved women a year, and it was not something extraordinary for the manners and customs of the 18th century. Casanova endowed with his love noble women, poor peasants, and street prostitutes. However, he was not a professional seducer. He was more of a womanizer, and he was just a skirt chaser. 4/5 of the pleasure meant for me giving some happiness to women, Casanova wrote frankly in his memoirs. His love affairs never ended up in a wedding. Above all, he valued his freedom. He loved some women only for a night, others all his life. Being an 18-year-old youth, he made an acquaintance with a certain Henriette. Giacomo was head over heels in love with her, and she reciprocated his love. They traveled together around Europe, but one day Henriette left the cafe in Geneva, inscribing on the window glass with the sharp edge of a cut diamond, "You will forget Henriette." In 13 eventful years, visiting the same Geneva cafe, Casanova saw the familiar inscription and acknowledged that he was not worth of his former sweetheart. He was 35, but it seemed that his life had come to an end. Giacomo felt lonely and dispirited. And when many years later he took to his bed, a caring nurse who was sent by Henriette, living in the neighboring estate, was sitting at his bedside. The second myth presents Giacomo Casanova as an audacious adventurer and a spy. In 1755, he was accused of blasphemy for eating meat during the Lent. Casanova was taken into custody in the Doge's Palace in Venice. The roof of the palace was covered with lead slabs. It is incredible, but in a year, Giacomo managed to escape after making a hole in the roof. Afterwards, he told about this adventure in the book The Story of My Escape. Being a well-educated and gifted person, Casanova tried his hand at many fields. In Paris, he founded a factory producing exquisite drawings printed on silk fabrics, but soon he went bankrupt. In Venice, the adventurer carried out secret missions of the naval ministry. The affable Casanova was received by the most high-ranking people of Europe. Frederick the Great, the King of Prussia, granted an audience to him. Casanova translated Iliad in the Royal Library, and he considered those 8 days spent on the translation to be among the happiest days in his life. One more event of his life is officially recorded. On December 15, 1764, Casanova arrived in St. Petersburg. He visited Tsarskoye Selo, Peterhof, and Kronstadt, but Catherine the Great did not take a fancy to him, and soon he returned to Germany. Years passed, and Casanova continued to wander around Austria, Holland, and France. In the Czech Republic, he got acquainted with Count Waldstein, who offered him the post of the librarian in his castle of Dux. Giacomo spent there the last 13 years of his life. The daring and attractive favorite of women turned into a sick old man who was constantly grumbling. His body was dying, but his mind did not want to put up with death, and Casanova started writing. He worked 13 hours a day and wrote 42 books. Some critics confirm the verisimilitude of the events described, but others called him the most shameless liar in the world literature. So the third myth about Casanova the writer appeared. The most famous work of Casanova is his 12-volume Story of My Life, which according to him was written not for the glory, but as a satire of myself. He was not afraid of shocking the reader by his excessive frankness. His memoirs brought him the posthumous glory of a great seducer. Giacomo Casanova died in 1798. He is buried in the castle of Dux, but nobody knows where exactly his grave is. The name of Casanova became a common name, a genius lover, a brilliant adventurer, a secret agent of the Inquisition. This man myth will be evoking admiration and curiosity of the descendants for a long time.